Alright, so right off the bat, I want you to ask yourself this. Have you ever felt nostalgic for any point in time, for any certain decade that you weren't around for? Because for me personally, I've been feeling that more and more often recently with TV, movies, video games, music, all sorts of that stuff. Because recently I feel nowadays, with certain properties, they're just being reused nowadays in modern day, both because they're already an established brand or because they already have a built-in audience. Like, as much as I love Deadpool and Wolverine, it essentially ends up being, hey, do you remember the 2000s? Look at this iconic 2000s character. Same thing for No Way Home. I'm not letting that off the hook either.
The power of the sun in the palm of my hand.
The point is, I'm nostalgic for video games. For any era, NES, Sega Genesis, PS1, PS2, each and every one of them has genre-defining and incredible experiences that are, like, basically unforgettable in my opinion. With that though, there is something that I really love about gaming, and that is the advertising of it. I love learning and finding new pieces about, like, every single detail up into release, and advertising for the games is even better in my opinion. Although in recent years, I ain't gonna lie, it's pretty bad, man. PlayStation just got generic with video game characters in the real world, and Nintendo just makes boring commercials of people casually playing on the Switch. But then again, they just came out of the Wii U era of commercials, so I could reasonably understand that.
Tapping a Yarn Yoshi amiibo? Whoa-shi. It's a double Yoshi explosion.
Cut the shit off, bro.
Cut the shit the fuck off!
But back in the day, when I look like on the internet and I find and see commercials of yesterday, I literally think to myself, damn, they don't make them like they used to. And in honor of Sonic X Shattered Generations, the upcoming Sonic 3 movie, I went to look at the marketing of the Sega Dreamcast. Which I think is funny that I'm talking about this because I've never owned a Dreamcast a day in my life. I wasn't even born around that time. The console died in 2001. I was born like 3 years later, so I have nothing to do with this console at all. And it's even more worse is I only played 3 games related to the Sega Dreamcast, being Sonic Adventure 1, Sonic Adventure 2, and if you want to get technical, Crazy Taxi, but that's only from arcade. But just to have a little bit of context here, the Sega Dreamcast was the last console that Sega ever made. Basically, Sega just couldn't compete with competition at the time, with the original Xbox One and the overpowering dominance of PlayStation 2. It was basically game over for them. But with that, the Genesis back in the day was like the most popular console, and it was like well known for actually able to compete with Nintendo and introducing Sonic himself. The Sega Saturn was a complete failure. Like, you probably only know that thing for Sonic R. But the Dreamcast, I don't know, man. It just feels so cool to me. And while yes, especially when it comes to commercials, the Sega Genesis commercials are like the more iconic and well-known ones, which basically created the rivalry that Sonic and Mario have. I just think the Dreamcast was just more creative. To start off the campaign, it was called It's Thinking, which was used in the American market. It was like throughout its first years to promote the console launch, and the name alone is amazing in of itself, implying that it's giving the impression that the Dreamcast is like next level technology, as it's basically seen as like the next evolution in gaming, the next step to a greater pasture. It's just so cool to me, and that's what I like about like the like late 90s 2000s is the fact it was all about like the future, what's next, because that's what it was just like rising technology. Because it's not like today where technology is like stagnant to where you have the iPhone 15, 16, no differences, maybe another camera added on. Like, no, like technology was fully on the rise, and that's what I love that they played into, and this especially played into being like the next level, you know what I mean? And I think this campaign especially worked for its thinking in terms of online capabilities, because this was like whenever like online multiplayer and all that stuff was basically in its infancy form. Like, for example, take a commercial like this.
It's evening in America.
And across this great land, young men and women are coming together through the power of the internet with one common goal: to whoop each other's booties. Sega Dreamcast games are now online, unleashing the ultimate horror, your fellow Americans. Jack into SegaNet through your Dreamcast console and join your countrymen in the virtual arena. Play NFL 2K1 and cream for meatheads you've never even met. Play NBA.
This is just a small taste of what I'm talking about here. The over-the-top acting, the characters inside the Dreamcast, like, just how over-the-top, how late 90s, early 2000s the nature is alone. Like, it just brings pure joy to me. Because whenever I say late 90s, early 2000s, I mean early. Like, the only way I could describe this was as a time as it was influenced by, like I said, rising technology, just rebellion, and overall just in your face against the system, punk rock, hip hop era. You can, like, that's like an era that just feels so, like, cool to me. And even though I was never born in that era, it just seems like such like a crazy fun time to be in. Like, I know I wasn't there. Maybe this is just me, like, you know, just like, man, our generation sucks. But something about it just seems so wild to me. It's just so cool. And honestly, I like the fact that these commercials basically kind of are like a time capsule and just show what media was like at that time and how it was affected by this. Because unlike movies or games, they aren't like commercials to where they had to fully be marketed to the here and the now of that specific time. Because here's the thing, I could watch Batman Begins and completely forget that it was made in 2005. But whenever I watch a commercial of Batman Begins with Nickelback, that will forever be infused in 2005.
It'll be the same again.
This poster alone just says it all. Put your TV on steroids. Like, most of this would not pass nowadays. Just look at these commercials. Like, there is so much life in them. It's so engaging to watch. Like, I just think the premise alone is amazing, which is the commercial consisting of a whole bunch of, like, the whole Dreamcast library. Like, not even first party, but you have third party. You have all types of different games just interacting with one another. It just shows the viewer just, like, the limitless potential that the Dreamcast has and all the different games it has. Like, here, I'm gonna show you this one commercial. Like, when I tell you, this one commercial represents everything that I'm talking about here.
Oh yeah, I'm feeling the love.
You feel the glove. But what's your name?
Gary Payton, but they call me the glove.
How you feeling tonight?
Yo, I'm feeling the love.
Feel the love, glove.
Sonic! Yo, Sonic! Man, stay off the light speed.
My bad.
Sonic Adventure on Sega Dreamcast. It's thinking.
Everything, and I mean everything, is great about this. The fact that you have the camera panning down, showing the multiple layers of the Dreamcast, it leads into this huge party in the club, and the fact that you have former NBA player Gary Payton on the mic, Sonic as a DJ, it's just downright cinema in my eyes. And the fact that Sonic is messing up the flow, thinking of his own game, about how fast it is truly, like, they don't make him like they used to. And speaking of Gary Payton, I love that they actually promote sports and make it a selling point. Because nowadays, when it comes to the new Madden, FIFA, 2K, they all play and run the same from every single game from last year and the year before and so on and so forth. Because back in the day, EA didn't own every single publisher that made sports games. Like, back in the day, there was actual competition, there was actual, like, quality, and that's why nowadays, when you just play a Madden game, they all play the same. But I'm getting off topic here. My point is this, is the fact that, like, back in the day, especially during the Dreamcast era, you would actually have someone like a former NBA player, Ryan Grant, in your ads for your game.
And to defeat your ruthless enemy, Steve of Hackensack.
Ryan, you're gonna get root.
Shut up, quadruped.
Sega Dreamcast. It's thinking.
That's what I like, especially with the amount of athletes in the ads, the fact that they actually promoted it to more casual players. Because nowadays, when it comes to advertising games, they mainly just, like, advertise, like, the heavy hitters. They just go like, hey, look, Spider-Man's out. Oh, look, God of War. Oh, look, it's that one franchise. But no, I feel like they actually marketed to more than just one specific audience, because when it comes to, like I said, Madden or any other, like every yearly release, they already know that they have an audience. But that's what I like about these ads, is the fact that these athletes actually had personality, and the fact that they actually were promoting, like new releases, and it was like a big deal whenever they came out. And out of all the athletes in these commercials, I think my favorite has to be former NFL star Randy Moss. Like, he's in a good amount of these, and it's just so cool when he's on screen. It's just so amazing, honestly.
What's happening, Dwayne?
Somebody help out Dwayne. Get NFL 2K1. Go online through Dreamcast and show them the web address. Look for Crush Crew and stomp these mullet-wearing, T-top driving hairballs. Stomp them!
But I think my favorite with him in these commercials is him having a conversation with Jim McMahon and him talking about the Genesis days. Like, something about that is just so creative and fun, in my opinion. Just having these two, NFL stars just talking to one another, and one's talking about like the previous console generation. It's just, they don't make them like they used to, man.
Got it made, Randy. You have no idea how it was back in the Genesis days. We couldn't think, couldn't adjust. Look what you got. My receivers couldn't do that, and our defense sucked. You'll never get beat by the same whack play over and over. You better appreciate what you got, Junior. Hey, let me go.
I think Jimbo got hold of a bad taco.
Hey, I'm a legend.
NFL 2K on Sega Dreamcast. It's thinking.
And also a standout one I have is for Space Channel 5. I know the premise, I haven't played it, but I love that the ad just shows these aliens just being straight up horny for this woman on stage.
Rated T-15.
Move it, bug.
Come on, dog, give it up for Ooh La La! Hey, nice pixels, George!
Check it out, chicks dig the rump shaking. Yeah, she's grooving on that.
Gentlemen, need I remind you that the female of the species is our natural enemy?
Hey, get up there. She wants you.
Hey, baby, come to Papa. Oh, heavens.
Bad dancing. It's a killer.
Yo, where can I find a Dreamcast? Also, fun fact, did you know that Michael Jackson was in that game, voiced by him and everything? Like, I know he worked with Sega, he has his own game on the Genesis, he worked on music for Sonic 3, but still, it's crazy to me. Also, this is something I wanted to address, I know you know it too, is the low poly on the characters, because I know that they just pulled the models straight from their game and put them into the commercials. And nowadays it might look weird or dated, but personally, I find the charm in that. Like, as much as I love the high quality of like Cal Kestis and the new Star Wars games, seeing like a PS2 model of Jango Fett, it just makes me happy. And in general, that's what I love about these commercials to me. It's just how happy they make me, and just like how it's just like a fun look into what culture and gaming was at the time. Especially for how creative it was, and just seeing Sega and all of its characters just interact with each other, like, for essentially was like the last time, because like I said, this was the end of Sega like making consoles. Like, yeah, sure, they still make, Sonic games and other games, but in general, this was like their last hurrah. And honestly, I think that this was a great way to go out. Like, in general, especially with the premise, with just all these like characters interacting with each other inside their game console, it reminds me of Wreck-It Ralph, but instead of all the characters going to work, they just bust out the Kagers and just say, dude, let's just have a fucking rager. Like, I love it. But yeah, no, that's basically it for the video. I really had fun making this because I just love looking at like old commercials for video games. I might do it for other consoles, especially probably the Sega Genesis and Nintendo War back in the day. If you like this video, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And yeah, no, that's really about it.
It's thinking.